Hey guys, what's going on? It's Marvin Burwell here, back at you with another Photoshop tutorial video. And in this video, you're going to learn how to add and subtract from your document photo or whatever it is that you are working on. Okay, let's start off and do what we always do. We're going to double click on the background layer. All right, and we're going to hit enter, and that's going to unlock it so that we can do manipulations. Guys, make sure you remember to hit that subscribe button if you have not done so already, and click the like button if you like the info you're getting in this video. And with that being said, let's continue and start with our first tool. Our first tool is called the crop tool. We notice when I click the crop tool, these dotted marks and dashes show up on the edge of the actual frame of the entire document. The reason is because when you crop, you're literally chopping parts off the edge of the document itself. That includes the canvas it's on, the document itself. So whatever you cut off will become the new shape of the entire document. So you see I'm going near the edge of where the crop part is. You see there's a diagonal portion here. There's a left and right, another diagonal, top to bottom, top to bottom. When you go to the edge, once you click that crop button and those lines appear around the edge, in the middle of each side and on the diagonals of each side, if you move your mouse over it, your arrow changes to a double-sided arrow, which means you can move and click and drag and move the document along that axis and in that way. So like here is left and right. I can bring it in left and right. Down here is from top to bottom, you know, do different things. And once I've set the parameters of my document, I hit the enter button and it locks me in at that shape. So now it's an ultra wide shape, right? If I go to my move tool, you'll notice I can move around, but this, you don't see the rest of the photo because this is a destructive change because it's a brand new shape of the entire document. Even if I move this up in the corner, I click crop again. I hit crop once, I hit it again. I've just now made another destructive change, right? Because it's locked, confined to the shape of the document. So see, now when I move it, I'm still missing more of my actual picture. So cropping is just when you want to take the edges off of something completely for good and reshape the entire document. Maybe even if you have a picture you took on your camera and when you look at the size of the picture, maybe it's 8 by 12. Well, maybe you want to make an 8 by 10. So you get the crop tool, you click and you drag in. And if you guys look while I'm clicking and holding, just up and to the right of where my arrows are, where I'm dragging from, you see those numbers? That W stands for the width, or how wide the photo is in inches. So if this were like an 8 by 12, I can drag the long side in and make it an 8 by 10. That's if I had to. Like right now, the edge of this one is about 7.8, 7.9. I can drag it in. And if I want, I can make this a 6-inch document going wide. See? Now the number says 6.000. And the same way you can do that on the wide side, here's the vertical side, or the height. See, it says H. H starts in about 5.2 something. If I want, I can bring it up, make the height of the document 4 inches specific. See? It's not really much of a problem like that, right? Okay, so now that we're done with the crop tool, that's what the crop tool does. Let's get our document back to the way it started. Double click on that layer again to open it back up. And we're going to move on to the paintbrush tool. And this one's pretty simple. You click the paintbrush tool, you come down here to the color area, and you choose whatever color you want. Once you've chosen the color you want, just start painting. And you see, we have a soft brush edge, right? And if we take that back by holding Control and pushing Z, or holding Control and Alt and pushing Z if we want to go back more than once, we can come up here in this corner again, like I said in the last video, and we can make a hard brush edge, and we can see, now we have a hard brush edge. And that's how the paintbrush works. Now, the next two tools are going to go hand in hand, which is the paint bucket tool, and then there's the shape tool. Let me show you the shape tool first, and then I'll help you with the paint bucket. With the shape tool, it's not the shape selection tool because there's no dotted marks to tell us we selected something. This time we're creating a shape. And since we have square created, or rectangle, we can make squares and rectangles with this. But see, that's my shape. What it also did was it created a new layer. Now, right here where it says it's a new layer, if you look in the area where the picture of the new layer shows, there's a small gray box here. It's a bounding box. And what that does is that keeps us from let's click the paintbrush, the paint bucket tool, which is the other tool I was talking about. And if you try and click, it has a 0 with a slash. It won't allow you to. Now, I want you to remember this because people run into this problem a lot. The reason being is because this is a shape. It's not directly editable until we do something called rasterizing. So you're going to go to the rectangles layer, right click on it, and one of the options down here is called rasterize. Once I do this, this is like having an image like on the first one. See, look, on the first image, if I take the erase tool, I can erase. Now, if I click on the rectangle tool because I rasterized it, now I can erase, right? But here's what I can also do. Now I can take the paint bucket tool. I can select a color that's different than the one I already have, hit OK, and now I can click and change the color of the shape. So these two work together. So now you see what the paint bucket tool does. As long as the parameters are really clean, right? Meaning it's no crazy pixels. It's a solid flat surface. The more solid and flat this surface is, the easier it is to click and change. Now watch something. I'm going to click on the rectangle layer and delete it. And now I just have my picture layer. If I try and use the paint bucket tool, let's say right here, you see that? Because even though it's light gray, it's middle grays, it's dark grays down here, where the pixels change a lot, you're going to have restrictions on how far the paint bucket will actually dump paint. Now, for those of you who have seen me use the tolerance before up top, here it is right here. I'm going to click and drag. It's up top, up in this bar. I'm going to raise the tolerance to 80 like I did in another video. Well, not 800. We want 80. And I'm going to click again. See, I have a greater distance that the paint bucket has dumped paint. Now, you may find situations where you can use this. Generally, I don't use it this way much. I mainly only use the paint bucket for large shapes. And there may be some other small instances, like for instance, this area on the shirt. See, I created the tolerance so good that it literally changed this entire Urban Nerds area on my shirt into yellow. And then I can hold Control and hit Z and back it up once. It's, so when you play with the tolerance, sometimes you can get a good click and clean things up really fast. Okay, so that's what the shape tool and the paint bucket tool is all about. You should also know that the shape tool, if you click and hold, you also have circles that you can create, right? You have that too. And last thing about it is we made the shape, and up top, right? Keep your shape selected after you create it. If you go up top here and to the left where this bar is, where we see a lot of our options depending on what we select is, you see where it says fill here. If I click on this fill box and I click a different color, I can change what I've filled the shape with. This will not work if you've already rasterized the layer. You should know that. Okay, that's important to know. But what we can also do is if we click off of that and go next to it, it says stroke. We can create a color of the edge of the circle too. So I'm going to click that as the stroke, and then I'm going to move over one, and it says here 4.68 pixels next to it. Click this drop arrow and drag it up. And when I do that, I make that stroke or the line surrounding the shape I created much larger. I can make it smaller. No, it's not an issue. But this is one of the ways that you would add like a little creativity to the shapes that you create. All right. So now we're done with that. We can get rid of that layer. And what are we moving on to next? The all important, if you are doing graphic design, the text tool. So once you click the text tool, like in most programs like Microsoft Word, you get this little line, telling you where your text is going to start once you click. Now be aware, once you click, a new layer is going to be created. So let's click just above, close to near the top of my head. We'll click here, and a really large blinking line appeared, which means when I type the letters, they're going to be pretty large. So let's get a more sizable letter into our frame. Let's go 48, right? And let's just type photos. See that? Now we've got some letters. And you can click in between the letters, if you want to delete, you accidentally type something that doesn't belong, right? You can do that. You can click and drag over the letters to select, and then you can come down here and change colors, right? Like I can make them like this color on my shirt to match that up. When I click off, see? Now it's been changed. So that's how you change colors on it. If you don't like the way the letters look, You click drag to select as usual. And if you go up here and to the left in this bar, like I said, depending on what tool you choose, this bar will change. So since we're doing type right now, where it says impact up here, this is where we get the drop down menu for the different types of lettering. See? And the good thing is you don't have to click the letters. You can just hover over each one and you can kind of get a preview of how it's going to look. Okay. So there you go. Simple enough how that looks. Just choose this one, Arial, right? You can also re-click over it too. And if you go to the bar next to where you choose the lettering type, you can choose any added options. Like I can make this bold, or I can make it what they call black, but it's like a really big bold, see? And I've really bolded the letters. So that's what that's for. And then again, click and drag, and you can still go back and change the size and do those things. Now, while you have the type tool selected, usually if you drop down just below where your typing is, it'll change to an arrow with a crosshair, the same as the move tool. So now once you see that, you can click and move that item around. Okay. So that's the shortcut way of doing that. Of course, the alternate way to do it is to just click the move tool and then make sure you're right on top of what you want to move and click and move it. The cool thing about the move tool is even though I'm moving the word photos, if I move away from it and click the background, now I'm moving the background. So this is why the move tool is very important and it has its advantages. Okay, so now you guys got some typing going on. If you click and hold on the type, you even get like vertical type. See, now the line is turned the other way. So if I click here and I type photos again, now it's gone vertical. And don't forget, if it went up off screen, I just look for that arrow with the crosshairs and I click and I drag to get it back on screen, except now I have vertical type. So that's how you use the type tool in Photoshop. And then the last thing we have is something pretty simple, which is the magnifying glass. Now I gave you guys the shortcut a long time ago. You hold control and you push plus, and every time you tap it, you get closer, and you push minus, and that'll get you further away. But the magnifying glass will bring you in too. As you click, you go further in. But I like to use the shortcut keys of control minus and control plus because it allows me to move in and out much faster. So I don't really use the magnifying glass too much, but again, that's how you would add to your visuals or subtract from your visuals. So there you guys have it. Those are the tools on how to add and subtract. So we just gone over the crop tool, which permanently changes the shape of the document itself and the canvas that you're working on. We use the paintbrush tool. Remember, we can make it a soft or hard edge. We can change the color to it, but that's for painting on top of your pictures and adding colors. Maybe you'll do some creative stuff with that. The paint bucket tool, which is for dumping color into large areas. And we can always make sure that if we want to, we can mess with the tolerance up here, up top, which always starts at 32. But the higher we make the tolerance, the more pixels it will cover close to the original color you clicked on. Okay. And then we had the shape tool, which helps you create squares and circles and shapes. And I showed you how you can add an outside line to it and different ways you can change the color to it. And don't forget about rasterizing if you really want to be able to erase at the actual shape and do different manipulations to it. And then we did the text tool, which you see on the screen right now. We showed how to type some text, how to change the type of text, how to make it bolder. And they even have options for italics, which kind of makes the letters lean slightly to the left and right. Right? And then the last thing we mentioned was the magnifying glass. Okay. Magnifying glass helps us zoom in. But like I said, I have a preference for holding control and pushing the minus and plus button as a faster way of doing that. I am going to hit the F12 button on my keyboard after selecting the move tool. And what that does is bring my document back to its original point. Make sure you have the move tool selected. The first tool you pretty much learned about, and then you can hit the F12 button on your keyboard, and usually that will bring you back to the way your document was when you first started. The good thing is when you bring your document back to where you were when you first started, the Control Z or the Control and Alt plus Z tap can actually move backwards to the last state you were at, and then after that, holding Control and tapping Z can move back and forth between the two. The difference being if you hold Control and hit Z, it moves you a step forward and directly backwards. So it's a way of looking at a comparison between what you just did and, what was before you did it. Okay. And then holding Control and holding Alt and hitting Z, you keep tapping it, you go back more than one step. Okay. So there you guys have it. Those are tools used to add and subtract from a document, plus a little bit of extra cool data to go with it. Now you have all the tools for your arsenal to really put some good work into your Photoshop work. There's always more details that we're going to get into in the next video, more advanced tools where we're going to start putting things together. So for now, guys, this has been a tutorial on the tools. Next, we're going to get into manipulating the actual images. This is more advanced stuff. It's going to help you do things like, match up colors and different textures and things like that. You're just going to learn some overall cool stuff you're going to be able to add on and do with your photos that's important to using Photoshop. So I thank you guys for looking at this video. Make sure you subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you on the